Hi, this is going to be a little introduction to Audacity video. Audacity is free open source software that is available for Macs, PCs, and Unix machines. It's a full-featured audio editing space. I sometimes call it Microsoft Word for audio. So this is the main sort of dashboard space for an Audacity project. You've got your basic audio controls: pause, play, stop, back, forward, record, and then some other features. So for now, I'm going to just start by hitting record, and I'm going to record myself speaking. And you can see there's one track now, which is this track that is being recorded. It moves from left to right with the passage of time. And then within that track, you can see the waves growing as I speak. So the waves represent the amplitude of the sound that is being recorded by the microphone. As I'm louder, the waves get bigger, and as I'm quieter, they get smaller. You can see pauses between the spaces, between the words that I'm speaking. And so as you do this more and more, you can kind of get a sense of where sentences are, where words are, just by watching the visuals of the audio waves. So let me stop this recording here. And right now I've got my cursor function selected, and I can just highlight an area of sound and play it. Do this more and more, you can kind of get a sense of where... Right. And I can, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole thing that I recorded. Let's see what this here is. As I'm louder, the waves get... And I can do just a little bit because I want that whole phrase. As I'm louder, the waves get bigger. And now I can Command C on the Mac to copy, and you can see now that that wave is repeated twice, and I can just Command V paste again and again, and now by the microphone. As I'm louder, the waves get bigger. 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 So just like you could do with text in Microsoft Word, you can copy, paste, move around, delete, paste repeatedly. And so you can listen to... I'm going to zoom back in. If I wanted to go in here and listen for a place where I stumble while I'm speaking, the amplitude of the sound that is being recorded by the mic. Back up just a little. So the waves represent the amplitude of this little... So there's a space where I stumbled as I was speaking, so I can just highlight that and hit delete. So the waves represent the amplitude of the sound that is being recorded by... And that's... I can just edit out ums or stumbles or various kinds of mistakes like that. For a lot of times when you're working with audio, you're going to want multiple tracks. So I've got this recording here of my voice. Let me just add some music. So here I've got an MP3, and I'm just going to drag it into the space. And it'll take a second to edit, and now I've got a second track. You can control the gain or loss reduction of so how loud or quiet a track is individually. I can switch this to be, instead of centered, I can make it all on the left or on the right. I can mute one track. If I click solo, then it mutes all the other tracks. So, but for now, so now we can hear. I'm hitting record, and I'm going to record myself speaking, and you can see and you can hear that the music is way too loud. It completely drowns out my narration, so I can just reduce the entire track on the music. by hitting record, and I'm going to record myself speaking. And you can see there's one track now, which is this track. So if I was wanting to line up the spoken track so that I have a little bit of music leading in, and then you get to the voice, I'm going to switch functions here, and I'm going to go to the time shift tool, and that allows me to take a track and shift it in time. So by moving this a little bit over, let's come in just after that beat there, and now I'm going to play it by hitting record, and I'm going to record myself speaking. And you can see there's one track now, which is this track. And then say I wanted, instead of the entire track to be music track to be quieter, I want music to come in and then fade out while I'm speaking. So then I can switch here to what's called an envelope tool, and that changes, you can see the colors there on the tracks, and it changes my cursor into this envelope tool. And I can add anchor points, which I can then drag in order to reduce or raise the sound for just segments of the audio. So now let's listen to what that sounds like. By hitting record, and I'm going to record myself speaking. And you can see there's one track now, which is probably even needs to be quieter. Right. So you can see that's how you can do fade ins and fade outs. It moves from left to right with the passage of time. There are effects included in Audacity that you can use. Probably the one that's going to be most important is noise reduction. So to use noise reduction, the best thing to do is to make sure that you have some silence recorded. I like to have 30 seconds to let my microphone run for 30 seconds when I'm not talking, just to capture background noise, because even when you're in silence, it's not complete silence. And that has two purposes. One is if I say cut out a segment, I decide while I was speaking there, I want to pause and stretch out a line. Or actually, in this case, what I would do is if I delete it and then moved it over so there was a space, you can hear, I'm going to mute this. You can see pauses between the spaces. So the like complete silence that is created in this space is more silent than just the silence of a background room. So here's a space where I think I recorded myself just not really saying anything. So I could copy that and paste if I wanted to sort of create a little bit of silence. You can see pauses between the space. Excuse me. So there you've got a way to create space between your speaking that doesn't sound like absolute silence. The other usefulness of that is for noise reduction, which is what I was starting to talk about. So you can, I would want more like 30 seconds instead of a couple of seconds of silence, but you can highlight a section that is quiet, go to your effects, turn on noise reduction, and get the noise profile. and then select all, and run the noise reduction, and it'll sort of reduce out some sound. There's a tutorial page on the Audacity wiki that talks through sort of in more detail how to do noise reduction, but the key thing there is having some silent space recorded when you're going to make a podcast, so that you can use that silent space to get a noise profile, and so that you can use it to fill in if you need to create space in your record. Those three tools are really the three that I use by far the most. The sort of cursor tool, which I use just for picking locations and for sort of selecting sets of text. The envelope tool for creating, for sort of quieting or making louder just little segments of recording, and the time shift tool to sort of set up timing. And you can have, I don't know if there's a limit on tracks. You can have a whole lot of different tracks. So if you have different stretches of interviews or conversation or recordings, and you can import them all, and then have one main track that you're working in, and be cutting and pasting from various pieces in multiple tracks, and then putting them all together. Once you have a recording, so if this was the recording that I wanted, I could just export that as an MP3, and it'll compile all of those tracks down into a single MP3 track. There are other effects there that you can play with. For podcasting, I generally find most of these are not particularly needed, but you can do some cool things with the effects if you want to sort of just go in and mess around, which really is the main thing that I would say about Audacity in general. Is it is an intuitive piece of software. Once you understand how it works, it's very easy to use. But it's intuitive once you understand how it works. So if you are going to be making a podcast, say, as you are, then it's a good idea, before you're trying to actually edit your full podcast conversation into a finished product that you're going to send out, I would do exactly what I've been doing here first. Sort of make a recording track of yourself speaking sort of nonsense or whatever, just talking, and then go in and play around with it. Just edit pieces out, play with the volume, move pieces around, get a feel, set up a piece of music as a backing track, or record multiple tracks of yourself and splice them together, have them playing sort of together. When it doesn't matter whether it sounds good, when all you're really doing is playing around with the capacities of Audacity. Obviously, you can do much more complex things with Audacity, but really that's all you really need to know how to do to put together a pretty good podcast episode.